cars in there and everything.
Right, okay.
There had been some white people in there somewhere, but...
Right, but what I'm saying is, why didn't the white people, like, fight against the same things that you were saying that the black people... Now, you know you're being recorded right now, okay? I'm telling you right now that for the last 21 seconds, you're being recorded. Where you said that the riots the government started, right?
Against the government is why the riots started, against being overtaxed and...
Right, but you said that the black people were the ones... But you said the black people were the ones who got sick of it and started to fight, right?
That's where the riots started at.
How come the black people... I'm sorry, how come the white people... how come the white people didn't join together with the black people and fight against what they thought was wrong, too?
Well, it was like a war zone. So, where white people were, then majority didn't live there. They wasn't supposed to be around there. That was a dangerous place to be at. The riot was out of control.
So you already knew about the riot happening? So, like, there's white people who already knew that it was going to happen?
No, I mean,
Well, I remember you telling me that at school, people were saying to you, are you going to move?
I can't remember right now what year the white flight was.
Wasn't it 69? Was it 69 or something like that?
Yeah, so that was after, because that was after the riots had happened already, not beforehand.
No, I thought you said they already knew, right?
No, it was 69. You just looked it up, it was 69.
No, I didn't look it up. I'll look it up right now then. I thought you knew.
Okay. I remember something sometimes
Alright, I'll look it up.
I have to find out again if I don't remember.
Alright. I'm going to look up Brightmoor during the riots, okay? Because that's where my guests live. Oh, not my guests, but I'm recording prior to any show or anything, but because we just wanted to know, like, what we were talking about here. So, white flight, Brightmoor, white flight.
White flight, because the white people were the ones that lived in Detroit that got up in the middle of
1967. 1967, it says. It says that during Detroit's civil unrest in July 1967, President Lyndon Johnson appointed a commission to investigate the causes of race riots throughout the nation that year. So I guess, apparently that wasn't the only place it was going on, He chose Illinois' Governor Otto Kerner to lead the panel. The next year, the Kerner Commission presented its recommendations. The report called for better employment, education, and housing in America's inner cities. Which, that sounds alright, right?
Yeah, all of the authority figures were like all the white people over the black people where the riots had started.
Were they really, though? Because
living in the neighborhood with the black people, and all of their, in Detroit, all the authority figures, all the cops, and all the authority figures were like all whites. The black people felt intimidated, and they felt like they were getting cheated and not treated fairly.
Okay, it says progress
retaliated against the government.
It says,
looting, burning buildings, that's what started rioting.
It says, after 30 years in the suburbs, Mark had just recently moved back to Brightmoor to look after his aging grandmother. A lot had changed since he last lived there in the 70s. For many ways, Brightmoor is emblematic of the problems that Detroit has faced during the last 50 years. Nestled in the northwest corner of the city, Brightmoor was a poor but stable working-class community throughout much of the 20th century. After 1967, however, much of the neighborhood's whites, working-class core staged a quick exodus to the suburbs. Mark's family was one of the first to go. After 1974, after the 70s, that's when it started getting really bad. I've known a lot of people who lived in this neighborhood. We moved from Detroit to Canton. Everybody was around here and moved out that way. For decades, the population continued to plummet and jobs evaporated. Stories of the rough neighborhood, nicknamed Brightmoor, permeated the city, and as crack cocaine spread throughout the streets in the 80s, the neighborhood became synonymous with urban decay. Now, let me just say something about that. And I know you live there, but let me just say something about that. You live there, your whole family lived there, and you're white, and you stayed there out of, like, you know, pride and everything. And the way that article, the way like that they're speaking is that so they go, you wouldn't want to come around this neighborhood because there was, you know, crack houses blowing up, Perpich says. My grandfather was telling me that the house right next door to me got blown off the foundation. For few neighborhoods in the city was the drug epidemic more destructive, or its consequences more persistent than Brightmoor. In the late 90s, the Detroit News described Brightmoor as a place where dozens of drug dealers loiter conspicuously at street corners and in front of abandoned houses. So here we've gone from 74. So because I just want to bring light onto who I'm speaking to. Okay? And this is somebody whose family lived in Brightmoor. They still live in Brightmoor the whole time. The entire time.
And also, the neighbors that lived all around me were white people on my block and across the street. They all continued to stay. They didn't wait it out.
But they're making it seem like there was no white people.
But they were on other blocks that white people were on other blocks that waited it out, like people that I was in school with.
But before all that happened, did you and black family, you know, white families and black families, and you said there was Koreans, did they all get along?
Yeah, I mean, where I lived at that time here in Brightmoor, I lived on a white block. You know, there wasn't black people living in my block or across the street on the block, up and down the street. And
why do you think that was? Why do you think that was? Do you think? But let me ask you: if a black family did move in, or did you go to school with black families? Like, would there have been a problem?
Yes, there were a few. There was only a very few black students in the school where I went.
So after 1967,
there were very few.
So after 1967, did it seem like there were more black students in the school where you went to?
No, basically, it seemed like it was the same. A lot of the same students were there, but there was quite a few that left too. I can't think of all who it was.
But as
I know that the people that I know that went to school with their families up in the middle of the night and left, because they told me ahead of time that their parents told them they were going to do it.
And that was after the riots, though, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
But you stayed the whole time. Your family stayed the whole time. So in 1967...
Yeah, and all the other Caucasian families that lived around me, they all stayed here, too.
Okay. So here, let's just take this for instance that we've got a white
we
neighborhood.
Came out of our homes, and we all knew each other well as neighbors.
Right.
You know,
and you were a neighborhood, you were a community.
Right.
And the other families, they're the ones who chose to up and abandon their properties. Now, would you say, do you know anybody who up and abandoned their properties back then? And like, do you still know them now? But do you still know anybody now? Like, what happened to their properties after they up and abandoned? Well, if you knew somebody, like somebody.
I was that close to the people that up and.
But what I'm saying is their properties. Like if you went to school with somebody, and you went to school with somebody, and they just up and abandoned their house on the street over. I'm just saying, right? What happened to it after that?
I have no idea. Because I know I've never been over to their house.
But are they like all just, when they abandoned their own houses?
I knew them from being in school with them, but I never.
But when they left, did nothing happen to their house other than the fact?
I don't know where they lived.
But I'm saying based on the neighborhood, and that's the school that you went to. Those people probably lived in the same community.
Well, eventually.
Did it seem?
But it took years on after that. That's when the lights started.
Is when they left their own houses. So when they left their own houses and refused to get along with the segregation, do you think? You know what I mean?
Well, they felt like they were sitting ducks. Is what it was. That's why they did that. Because they made them feel that way. But do you find that after? Right, and the chaos, and it was horrifying.
Right, but after it was over, because your family said. But after it happened, like, why didn't it scare your parents?
We just didn't feel intimidated at that point.
Did you ever?
No. I didn't have any conflicts going on, and we didn't have conflicts going on.
So there was never any real racism going on between the actual people?
No, we lived in Brightmore here in our area.
Okay, but I know that before you referred to it as the white street, the white families around you. After, but did black families move in after the riots?
Oh, I think that there continuously was white people, I think, living here. Things just escalated.
So black families never moved in after?
I mean, after eventually, black folks started moving into the neighborhoods where we live at. And now we're amongst majority, right here, where we are is majority the black folks.
Okay, all right.
Black folks.
Now, but did they just take over, like, what were abandoned properties?
No, we have, people that work and.
What years was that? Was it like
black people buy the homes, fix them up, and it's still crime right here. I mean, So that.
But do you guys get along? Everybody gets along?
Huh?
Everybody gets along?
I mean, we're already here where we're at.
Do you think that the problem is really like what people make people to pursue?
We have good vibes between us here where we live now.
Okay, so do you think that when they talk about stores shutting down and things like that, that's mostly the government not cracking down on?
It's the government that's straight up, definitely.
In your opinion, right?
There's all kinds of. I mean, the crime is there all the time.
Was there a lot of crime before the riots?
You never was like that in Brightmore back then, like that. There was a lot of drugs. It wasn't so much crime. A lot of people using drugs and selling drugs.
Now, what year?
There was crime, yeah, but I mean, it wasn't.
So how old were you in 1967?
Yeah, way out of here. Just got way out of here.
How old were you in 1967?
Okay, I was only like, I was born in 1958.
So you were 9, so you would remember the riots, right?
Yeah.
And what do you remember?
I remember it on the news. I think we actually had traveled around there at that time, looking to see, curious what was happening.
Were they based only in Detroit? Were they based only in Detroit? And is Brightmoor like a different city of Detroit or a different suburb or?
It's like a little community that was built for poor people, low income people to come and to move into, and to help the lower income people to come in and stabilize themselves.
And at that time, they were white, right?
Yeah.
And they were white low
Like I
income.
say, Brightmoor was probably
So,
the white
people aren't always rich, right?
There were people from the South, other people.
You said something about a Korean family.
White folks coming in, buying these houses and living in these houses and having it as their homestead. So right there, my phone died. So we'll get this interview with a lifelong resident since the mid-50s of Brightmoor, Detroit. This is part 1. Please do tune in for part 2. And be sure to thumbs up and leave comments and let us know if you like this series. Thank you. Bye.